Namaste and Jai Swaminarayan. Welcome to this week's episode of Timeless Hindu Wisdom. This is a special web series delivered by the Swamis of BAPS Swaminarayan Sanstha. It has been initiated to inspire us during these challenging times with the universal wisdom of ancient Hindu scriptures presented in a contemporary, bite-sized format. Originally from Houston, Texas, USA, Mangalnidhidas Swami graduated with a degree in psychology and biology from Harvard University. After completing his first year of an MBA at the Yale School of Management, he left to commence his monastic training in India, where he was ordained as a sadhu by His Holiness Pramukh Swami Maharaj in 2003. He remained in India for 8 years studying Hindu scriptures, world religions, Swaminarayan history and theology. Mangalnidhidas Swami currently serves at the BAPS Swaminarayan Mandir in Robbinsville, New Jersey, from where he oversees the English publications for BAPS across North America. He himself has authored and translated several articles, chapters and books, including the 2-volume biography of Akshar Brahm Gunatitanand Swami. He is an accomplished speaker, having spoken widely on Hindu teachings and values around the world. So let us now hand it over to Mangalnidhidas Swami.
Namaste and Jai Swaminarayan. Welcome to another episode of Timeless Hindu Wisdom. In the previous segment of Timeless Hindu Wisdom, we explored how, in the Mahabharata, Arjuna perceived Dronacharya's obstacles and criticisms as opportunities for growth, and how this mindset helped him achieve his aim of excellence in archery. We ended pondering Gunatitanand Swami's statement from the sacred text, the Swaminimata, that one who is wise is gladdened by criticism, and one who is foolish is gladdened by praise. Today, we are going to further explore how the insights of Gunatitanand Swami's statement can foster our personal and spiritual growth. While we might at times, like Arjuna, be able to accept criticism constructively, it's hard to learn to actually relish criticism. It is certainly possible to develop that mindset. Many people had observed it in Yogiji Maharaj, the 4th spiritual successor of Bhagwan Swaminarayan, who often used to say, "If someone points out my flaws, I become very happy, because now I know how to improve." Intellectually, we can see the logic behind this, but we sometimes find it hard to put into practice due to a misunderstanding about our flaws. This misunderstanding can be illustrated with a simple thought experiment. If someone told you that there was a snake under the chair you are sitting on, would you be happy or upset? We might instinctively answer that we would, of course, be upset if someone informed us that there was a snake under our chair. However, we should actually be very happy to find out that there is a snake under our chair. That way, we can get up from our chair and safely escape, rather than remaining comfortably seated in our chair, oblivious to the deadly snake under it, until it bites us. In this illustration, the snake represents our flaws, and being told about our flaws is criticism. So, should we be happy or upset with criticism? If we recognize our flaws as our foes, that is, as deficiencies that limit us and that cause us pain and suffering, then it stands to reason that having our flaws exposed through criticism so that we can do something about them leads to a much better outcome than remaining oblivious to our flaws and allowing them to continue to harm us. In many facets of the corporate world, it is widely accepted that knowledge of one's flaws is invaluable. For example, large tech companies routinely have a bug bounty program. These are standing commitments by the companies to pay large rewards to people who can point out flaws in their software programming, so that those flaws can be fixed before others exploit them and cause expensive damage to their business. In the same way, we can learn to relish criticism if we transform our perception of criticism from a personal attack to invaluable data on how to improve. But to do this requires us to accept some fundamental beliefs about ourselves, to adopt a mindset of wisdom. The first fundamental belief is to accept that I'm not perfect, but that I have flaws. Obviously, if one cannot accept this, then any criticism can be nothing other than a false personal attack to us. However, most people with a bit of self-reflection can accept that they have flaws, even if they find it hard to admit this to others. The second fundamental belief that one must have is the conviction that I can improve. This is key. If we have this conviction, then it is much easier to accept and be happy about the flaws that are pointed out to us, since we know that these flaws are temporary, that I can correct them, and that these flaws do not define me forever. For example, imagine that you are mingling with guests at a dinner party, and an hour after you finish dinner, a friend leans over and whispers in your ear, "Hey, you have a piece of rice stuck on your lip." Clearly, you would quickly brush the rice off your lip and be happy that your friend pointed out this flaw and only wish that someone had told you sooner. In this case, we are happy to have our flaws pointed out because they are easily fixed. It's much harder to be happy when someone criticizes us about a flaw that we think we cannot fix easily or fix at all. For example, if we get criticized for getting angry instead of remaining calm, and we believe that we are not in control of our anger, that it is our ingrained nature that can't be changed, even if we try, then that criticism would feel like an attack on one's self, since our conception of ourself is fixed and unchangeable. In reference to Gunatidanand Swami's statement, one who is wise is gladdened by criticism, and one who is foolish is gladdened by praise, the conviction that I can improve is the key mindset of one who is wise, and the conviction that myself is fixed, unable to grow, and unable to improve is the key mindset of a fool. One who is wise, who is convinced that he can improve, remains focused on becoming good, and so relishes criticism as it illumines a path to improvement. On the other hand, one who is a fool and who is convinced that they cannot improve has no option other than to remain focused on looking good, and thus they relish praise. Convinced that he cannot improve, the fool will resist when his flaws are pointed out, thus losing the opportunity to improve himself. Yogiji Maharaj often told the parable of a master sculptor who was teaching his son his trade. Each time his son attempted to create a sculpture, his father would find something to criticize about it. The son eventually got tired of his father's constant criticism. One day, he worked hard and made his best sculpture ever, and brought it before his father, excitedly lying that he had found it buried in the ground. His father examined the sculpture minutely and praised its various elements. Delighted to hear this praise, the son revealed that the sculpture was actually his. The father sadly observed that he would never improve as a sculptor beyond this point, because he was no longer willing to accept criticism on how to improve his craft. Similarly, if we cannot see criticism as an opportunity to improve ourselves, our growth will cease, Furthermore, the fool, who is convinced that he cannot grow and improve, will blame all his problems on other people or circumstances rather than examining how he can make personal improvements to fix his problems. Yogiji Maharaj often told a parable of a man whose foolish actions caused all the people in his village to address him as fool. One day, fed up with being called a fool, early in the morning he ran away from his village, planning to settle somewhere far away where no one knew him and no one could call him a fool. After many miles of running, he stopped in an unfamiliar village, tired and thirsty. Noticing a woman drawing water from a well, he asked if she would kindly give him some water to drink. She replied, "Sure, cup your hands together, and I will pour you some water into your hands from my pot." But instead of cupping his hands like this to catch the water, the man put his hands upside down. The lady was surprised and said, "This looks like you're a fool." Shocked, the man asked, "Who came from my village to tell you this?" The lady replied, "No one had to come and tell me. Your actions show it." In this parable, the foolish man blamed others for calling him a fool instead of focusing on improving his foolish actions. This is a typical pattern of behavior for one who thinks that they cannot grow, that they cannot improve, and blaming others without attempting to improve oneself only compounds one's problems. Finally, because the fool thinks that he cannot learn and grow, he misses out on opportunities to improve by refusing to try things he doesn't know. American psychologist Carol Dweck once observed this phenomenon in an experiment she conducted on children. She would offer a child a simple puzzle to put together. Each time the child completed a puzzle, she would give them a choice of attempting an even harder puzzle or trying the same easy puzzle over again. Some children didn't want to try harder puzzles and just kept doing the easy puzzle over and over, feeling happy at their achievement. Dweck characterized these kids as fixed mindset, indicating that they implicitly were not convinced that they could learn or grow, and so they refused the opportunity to even try. Other kids relished the challenge of harder and harder puzzles, seeing fun in self-improvement. Dweck suggested that these children possessed a growth mindset, or a conviction that through continued effort they could improve themselves. Over many years, Dweck found that the children possessing a growth mindset had much greater levels of success and achievement in their life than those possessing a fixed mindset. All of these examples help us understand Gunatitananda Swami's insight that he who is wise relishes criticism, since such a person is convinced that he can grow and thus continues to improve. Such a wise person truly knows how to succeed at failure. Not that he fails more and more spectacularly, but that he successfully uses failures as stepping stones to greater and greater personal improvement. In contrast, he who is a fool is convinced that he cannot grow and improve, that he is fixed in place. Thus, he sees criticism as a personal attack, not as an opportunity for self-improvement, and he can relish only praise. Before going on, an important note is needed on justified and unjustified criticism. The criticism Gunatitananda Swami has been referring to, which we should use to improve ourselves, is justified criticism, not unjustified criticism. Unjustified criticism can be safely ignored. Pramukh Swami Maharaj often used to say, if someone calls you a donkey, instead of getting mad or feeling hurt, you should check to see, do I have long ears, 4 legs, and a tail? Or, more likely, do I have the stubborn nature of a donkey? If I do, I should correct it. And if I don't, I shouldn't be concerned about something that is clearly the other person's misperception. That being said, the key mindset of a wise person, which is characterized by being gladdened by criticism, is the conviction that they can improve. Carol Dweck calls this the growth mindset. In our ancient Hindu traditions, this is called Shraddha. The word Shraddha is a mindset that encompasses hope, faith, and the conviction that one will be able to attain one's goal. It is an attitude that motivates one to keep trying until one succeeds. Shraddha is not a birthright. Shraddha is a choice. One chooses to retain the conviction that I can improve or that I cannot improve, and that ultimately becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. A key issue in the development of this mindset of Shraddha is how we perceive failure. It is critical to accept that failure is not a judgment about one's core self, but an indication of where further effort is needed. Learning is simply managing failure. Anyone who has learned to ride a bicycle in their childhood has experienced that one does not learn how to balance without ever falling down. At the same time, upon falling, one does not decide that they are genetically incapable of achieving balance on a bicycle, that they are not inherently a bicycle person, or that their upbringing has been such that they are destined to always fall down. The child simply gets up, and maybe with little encouragement from their parent, tries again. Whether it is a skill like riding a bicycle, or concepts in one's education, or learning virtues in one's life, learning is simply getting up one more time than you fall down. In this way, learning is simply managing failure, in that, if n is the number of your failures, n plus 1 is the number of your attempts. That is why the mindset of Shraddha, the mindset of wisdom, or the mindset of growth is so necessary for our self-improvement. As a child, learning to ride a bicycle required the mindset of Shraddha, that I will be able to do this. Today, learning to improve oneself in all aspects of life, but particularly in our spiritual life, requires the same mindset of Shraddha, that I will be able to do this with God's grace. Let us pray to Bhagavan Swaminarayan and Mahant Swami Maharaj that we may choose to maintain the mindset of Shraddha that will enable us to embrace criticisms and obstacles as invaluable opportunities in our continual journey of self-improvement.
Thank you for tuning in to this session of Timeless Hindu Wisdom. If you have any feedback or would like to send in any questions for upcoming sessions, please email timeless@uk.baps.org. We look forward to you joining us again next time. Thank you.